Welcome to the Lincoln County News Podcast, where we sit down with each other and the people of Lincoln County to better understand what's going on in the world around us. We're your hosts. I'm Johnathan Riley, a reporter with the Lincoln County News.
And I'm Molly Rains, also a reporter. On this episode, we're going to sit down with Lucas McNelly, a filmmaker originally from Waldoboro who works here at the LCN, to reminisce about Waldoboro's former Movie Pizza Shoppe, which burned down on November 17th. But first, the top stories from the November 21st edition of our paper. This past week, we lost a longtime civil servant and quiet community activist, Stan Waltz, who passed away at Maine Health Medical Center in Portland on November 11th. At one time or another, Waltz worked as code enforcement officer in 11 towns across Lincoln County, and beyond that, he was an active member of the local Lions Club, the Damariscotta American Legion Post, and the local Masons. Friends described him as a kind-hearted, generous man who always had time to help and usually did so behind the scenes.
The former home of the Movie Pizza Shoppe in Waldoboro was damaged in a fire on Sunday, November 17th. The late Randy Raymond and his business were community fixtures for almost 30 years. Between 1987 and 2015, generations of Waldoboro Little Leaguers celebrated victories or soothed defeats with pizza or ice cream at the business.
A Florida man escaped injury when the tractor-trailer he was operating rolled onto its side in the intersection of Route 1 and Damariscotta's Main Street on Monday evening, November 18th. The truck was empty at the time, but it was owned by a Massachusetts compressed natural gas supplier. The crash tied up the intersection for more than 4 hours, and the driver, Joseph Alfred, 44, of Lake Worth, Florida, was issued 2 citations by Maine State Police.
Wiscasset is going to have a special town meeting to consider funding for the first phase of a wastewater treatment plant relocation project. The question is whether Wiscasset residents want to use $350,000 from undesignated funds to secure $4 million in state funds. Phase 1, which includes designs and initial construction, is expected to cost more than $7 million of the $51 million project.
Great Salt Bay Community Schools' plan to withdraw from AOS 93 and form Regional School Unit 48 has received approval from the Maine Department of Education, and it will take effect next July. The 3 towns that make up the GSB Consolidated School District voted in June to create their own regional school unit. GSB school committee members expect the change to be budget neutral, if not a money saver.
Waldoboro foodies and farmers Allison Lakin and Neil Foley own and operate East 40 Farm and Dairy, where they raise herds of Jersey cows and whey-fed pigs and produce Lakin's Georgia's cheese. Molly Rains tells the story of how this enterprising couple bonded over a shared passion for farming and homemade food, and together they built a place where they could live out their dreams. In this week's Character of the County.
The Madomic Valley Panthers football team succumbed to the strong defense and robust running game of the Herman Hawks, falling 24-14 in the Class C North Regional Championship game on Saturday, November 16th. The regional championship was a rematch of the team's season opener, which Herman won 14-8. The Panthers finished 7-3. The Hawks improved to 8-2 and move on to the Class C state championship game against Freiburg Academy.
Dana Verge was inducted into the Maine Baseball Hall of Fame. Dana Verge is the District 2 Little League Administrator. It was inducted in Portland on October 27th. Verge, a Washington resident, has devoted 72 years of his life to the sport, playing, coaching, umpiring, and administrating. He has been the District 2 Administrator for 35 years.
In other headlines, the Bar Farm in Bristol has launched a 4-H chapter to cultivate the next generation of farmers.
Longtime MVHS cheering coach Heather Simmons is back with the team as co-coach after taking a year off to recharge.
39 firefighters from 10 towns battled a brush fire that burned 2.3 wooded acres off of French's Point Road in Somerville on November 16th.
Lucas McNelly, an employee of the Lincoln County News and longtime Waldoboro resident and filmmaker, is in the studio with us today to talk about the importance of the Movie Pizza Shop to the community.
Also very excited to be here for the Florida Man story. I know that's a big milestone in any newspaper to be able to finally get a Florida Man story.
Yes, Florida Man showed up in a big way on Route 1 for those who just started tuning in. There was an overturned tractor trailer for about 4 hours impacting traffic northbound.
Yeah, I mean, you hear that there's a tractor trailer flipped over at that spot on Route 1, and you go, how could that possibly happen? And then to find out when you read the paper, oh, it's a Florida Man. Now it all makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, so in a week that was very busy, we had no shortage of issues. In one of those things that came up this past weekend was the damage of the Movie Pizza Shop along Jefferson Street in Waldoboro. From what I understand, you have close ties to the shop, and then just being a resident down there, tell us a little bit about the significance that seeing that building on fire has for the community.
Yeah, well, my brother called me and he's like, hey, you're not going to like this. The Movie Pizza Shop's on fire. And I was like, oh, and then there were some words that we're not allowed to say here. And
like what?
we can list them all. George Carlin had made them famous.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Movie Pizza Shop, if you grew up in Waldoboro at all, it's such an important part of your childhood. And, you talked in an earlier episode about the Schooner Landing, and it's a very similar sort of impact to the community. And it's the place where everybody knows your name, I guess, is a good way to describe it. And so for that to burn down, it's just so symbolic. And I think one of the things I realized when I was talking to the Bangor Daily News about it, for some reason they called me. But when they called me, I was like, it in a way, it's like Randy died again, because there was still that thing there to remind us of him and his impact and what he meant to the community. And so to lose that, it was like losing him again.
So for our listeners, Randy Raymond was the proprietor of the Movie Pizza Shop from 1987 until his passing in 2015. Randy's that building has been vacant for the last 10 years as well. So,
and all the DVDs are still there, tragically.
Oh, really?
And it's like, at least let us get the DVDs out in the world.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
So do you have some memories that you'd like to share sort of at the Movie Pizza Shop?
Yeah. So there's not a lot to do in Waldoboro, on a given day. And that was one of the things to do, is especially in like the 90s. What are you going to do? We don't have the internet or anything. And so the default, weekend plan was, well, we'll go to the Movie Pizza Shop. We'll get a pizza or two. We'll get 2 or 3 movies. We'll rent the movies, watch those. There's your evening. And that was the default move for a lot of people for their entire lives, or for the 30 years that Randy ran the place. And it's kind of hard to describe the impact. So, there's a movie rental place that's not a Blockbuster, and there's the guy there who knows all the movies.
Right.
And he knows what movies you like, and he knows what movies you don't like, and he knows which movies your mother will let you watch, and he knows which movies your mother will definitely not let you watch. And, you hear of those places, and they're not in every community, because a lot of places got stuck with a Blockbuster. So Randy was that guy. And he, I think he was the guy that got me into watching foreign films and stuff like that. And so imagine if you have that place, and then you have the best pizza within 50 miles by anyone's account, and it's the same place. And also there's an ice cream shop off the side for when you won the Big Little League game. And that's all in one place in a town as small as Waldoboro.
That sounds, tragic. I think I grew up in Bremen, so I maybe once or twice went over there, but I don't really have those sort of memories that you do. You said that you were turned on to foreign films by Randy.
Yeah.
Do you remember what film it was that he recommended that threw you into that world?
Oh, no. But it probably was like a Miramax thing from the mid-90s, something like that, because I kind of got into film late. I didn't really get into it until I started watching movies probably in high school, and I didn't really get into film into college. But it was probably like my freshman year of college, something like that.
That's amazing.
Right, so it was probably trying to think what that would have been. There was probably like, it wasn't Amelie, it was before Amelie, but it would have been something mainstream foreign film. Like, hey, do you know there's these movies in other languages and you can just read the subtitles and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll probably like it.
Right. You can figure it out.
Yeah, you can handle it.
Well, it's really interesting to hear your account of how, this place really sounds like a marvel for, people of all ages, but especially the youth of the area. The availability of those films and having that sort of intimate connection with the store owner, and then having ice cream and pizza around there. I mean, I can't imagine why you wouldn't go there. And so it really, it also sort of speaks to the kind of person that Randy was. And can you talk a little bit about who Randy was?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't from Waldoboro. He lived like 45 minutes to an hour away. Yeah. And he would commute every day. And he was just a fixture. He, donated to Little League teams, and if there was a fundraiser, he was involved, and he was just there. And you know where it is. It's right in the middle of the village. Yeah. It's down the road from the Little League field. It's down the road just down the hill from the Waldo Theater. It's down the First Baptist Church is there, the old First Baptist Church, Broad Bay now. The Narrows is right there. It's just this hub. And I think what's kind of interesting about Waldoboro is if you're from Waldoboro, the village is Waldoboro. But if you're not from Waldoboro, that stretch of Route 1 from Hannaford to Moody's is Waldoboro, and that's just a bunch of gas stations. That's a really important distinction. Just culturally, it's very different on either side of that, right? That's really right. And so part of that culture for 30 years was Randy Raymond. Yeah, he was an essential part of that culture. And his funeral was packed, and he was I'm going to forget this, but Shriner? He might have been a Shriner, something like that. One of those fraternal groups. I forget which one. So the funeral was packed. Masonic, something like that. So his funeral was packed like that. And to make the point about the pizza, it was a talking point at his funeral, how good the pizza was. And it was like some guy who's giving one of the eulogies or speeches. He's like, and oh man, that pizza. And you just heard like over the crowd, like, oh yeah, that pizza.
What was so special about it? What set it apart? I was thinking about this today while I was trying to get work done, because I knew you would ask me that. It's, there's a lot of great pizza places. There's like Oysterhead. There's Odd Alewives has great pizza. And it wasn't like those at all. It was like a different style. It was, how in the episode of Parks and Rec where there's the contest between Ron Swanson and with the burgers? Yeah, with the burgers. Yeah, one's just a regular burger and the other one's like this amazing like vegan whatever. Yeah. His was the regular burger. There wasn't like prosciutto on it. There wasn't diced this and whatever. It was a pepperoni pizza. That's Waldoboro. Yeah, and it's very it's very Waldoboro. It's a clam digger town. And it was down the middle, but executed flawlessly. And there was something about the crust that had like this, like caramelization, I guess is the right word. I'm not a food person, but like this texture on the crust was just awesome. And it was just, I've been all over the country and I've had pizza all over the country and I've never had anything close to it. I've had calzones that are better, but not pizza that's better. Wow. It's very weird. And I don't understand how someone hasn't found the recipe. And, maybe he never wrote it down. Maybe it might have just been in his head. Yeah. Did it stop operating when he died? Yeah, it stopped pretty much instantly. He died. I believe he died there watching a movie, which is very fitting in a lot of ways. And then, his wife she lives like an hour away. And I don't think there was an interest in reopening it, or maybe it was probably too painful, something like that. Sure, no one really knows. Or some people know. I don't know. And so there was always this hope that someone would maybe reopen it. Maybe one of the former high school students who would work there would come back and reopen it, and he would find the whole recipe and blah, blah, blah. And then maybe that's just a pipe dream because movie rental places don't really exist anymore, sadly. But again, to see it burn down means that's probably not going to happen.
So you said that seeing the building burn down again was kind of like reliving sort of when Randy passed. I know that the building is still standing and it sustained pretty significant damage. Right now, I know it's under investigation, but there was fire around the outside of the building and it traveled up the side of the building up into the eaves. And so there was a second story burning, and then the first floor sustained a lot of water damage from putting out the first.
So all those DVDs are water damaged. Is what you're saying.
So a lot of maybe just some water. You know,
they are DVDs.
They're DVDs. You know, like, they don't advertise it, but they are waterproof.
The paper sleeves might be in rough shape.
Yeah, that's true. You know, so. And that is another painful part of this is that you said is that this is sort of reliving that and being reminded of sort of this. We reached out to Sam Pennington, the editor of the main Antique
and
Digest.
Notorious troublemaker.
And we spoke to him briefly about what losing that building or just the fire meant, to the community. And Sam, said it was the best pizza around, and it was devastating. But it's been a decade of kind of watching the building kind of go into disrepair. Not totally, it's not but that has been an additional part of the grieving process.
Right.
And that this was just kind of rubbing. I think he said rubbing salt in the wound. So
that sounds like Sam.
Yeah. But so I know that you're saying that people were hoping that maybe one of the high schoolers would come back and start that up again. Is there any rumors or inklings around town that people are like, maybe this is,
this would be the impetus?
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything, but it's similar to the Waldo Theater in a lot of ways. The Waldo was in rough shape for a while and it was falling apart and it was in disrepair, and then a new board came in and they raised money and now it's crushing it. So maybe that would be something. I mean, if the pizza ovens are still in good shape, then that would be the big test, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to mess up a pizza oven. So
right. I mean, they're on fire.
Right. If they're on
all
fire.
the time.
Yeah. Right.
It's, we might have to replace some wires on the outside.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But yeah, I mean, maybe someone could reopen it. The Waldoboro's kind of having a little bit of a moment. Molly, you cover Waldoboro, right? I mean, it seems to be things are going well.
I've heard it called a renaissance by some. But it also depends who you ask. And,
right.
Yeah, the empty buildings downtown come up sometimes in the town office, and the pizza shop was one of those. It's kind of unclear what direction they'll take.
Well, Lucas, thank you for coming in and sitting down with us and painting a picture of what the significance is of this building. And, hopefully this is the impetus for something else to go there. But
I mean, one thing I was going to say, I forgot to say, and I'm going to interrupt you because I'm like that. If you're from Waldoboro, there's Moody's, which is an institution, and we all love Moody's, but Moody's is kind of for the state. It's a tourism destination and it's where everybody goes, and we all go there and we eat pie and do the whole thing. But the Movie Pizza Shop was for the locals because the village is offset from Route 1, and people don't know that. People don't even know it's there. People sign up for the Waldoboro Day 5K and they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know any of this stuff was here. And so the Movie Pizza Shop was where the locals went. Anytime you travel somewhere, you'd want to go where the locals go. Yeah. And that's where the locals went.
Well, hopefully someday soon the locals can go back.
Hopefully.
Cool. Well, Lucas, thank you so much for sitting down with us, and we'll see you around the office.
Sure.
We won't have a regular news recap for you next week, as our offices will be closed for Thanksgiving when we usually record. However, there will still be an episode as LCN sports reporter Mick LaBelle previews the basketball season and how the local teams are shaping up. He'll be joined by Lucas McNelly, who was just here with us to talk about the Movie Pizza Shop. Outside of his work for Lincoln County Publishing Company, Lucas is the founder of Maine Basketball Rankings, a website that provides a comprehensive guide to high school basketball statewide. It's sure to be a great conversation.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Broadsheet, a podcast by the Lincoln County News. Production support is provided by Tyler Davis of Tyality Productions. Theme music by Stu Mahan and Sherwood Olin.
Have a question or a suggestion? Email us at info@lcnme.com. And if you haven't already, please be sure to rate and subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen.
This has been a Lincoln County Publishing Company production.